The hidden blueprint of the psyche. Most people live their entire lives as strangers to themselves. They walk through the world wearing masks they've inherited. Masks shaped by culture, family, expectation, fear. And beneath those masks, behind the carefully curated identities, lies a vast inner world they've never dared to enter. Carl Jung called this inner landscape the psyche. Not just the mind, but the entire architecture of our being. It is not linear, not logical. It is layered, symbolic, mysterious. It is a house with rooms we've locked long ago, rooms filled with forgotten memories, secret desires, wounds that never bled but never healed. At the surface, there is the conscious mind, what we know, what we claim to be. It is the voice narrating your life, the part of you that says, I am. But this voice is only a flickering candle in a cathedral of shadows. Just beneath it lives the ego, the organizer of our reality, the storyteller, the self-image we project to the world. The ego wants clarity, order, recognition. It craves control, but control is an illusion when you're floating above an ocean you've never swum in. That ocean is the unconscious, the reservoir of all that has been repressed, forgotten, or never fully understood. It holds not only personal memories, but collective symbols, ancient fears, and universal truths. It speaks in dreams, in slips of the tongue, in sudden waves of emotion that feel like they belong to someone else. And deeper still, beyond ego and unconscious, lies something more profound, the self. Not the self you know, but the greater self, your totality. It is the part of you that watches and waits, the divine architect of your becoming. It is the seed of wholeness, the original blueprint buried beneath the rubble of survival and adaptation. Most people never touch this self. They orbit it unknowingly, misidentifying their ego as the entirety of who they are. They live fragmented, exhausted from trying to keep up the illusion. Jung's gift was to offer a mirror, not the kind that reflects the surface, but one that reveals the soul beneath. He taught that wholeness is not achieved by perfection, but by integration, by facing the parts of ourselves we fear, neglect, or deny. To begin this journey is to open that mirror, to descend into the depths, not to escape who you are, but to finally meet it. The persona, the mask we wear. We are all actors on a stage, Jung said, and every actor needs a mask. The persona is that mask, the version of ourselves we craft for the world. It smiles when it must, conforms when it's needed, and says what others want to hear. It is not deception, it is survival. The persona is how we adapt to the tribe. It's the doctor's white coat, the teacher's calm authority, the influencer's curated confidence. It's how we gain approval, stay safe, belong. But a mask, if worn too long, can begin to fuse with the skin. You forget where the persona ends and where you begin. At first, the persona serves you. It helps you get the job, fit into the group, be liked, respected, even loved. But the danger comes when you believe it's all you are. The soul doesn't live in masks. The soul lives behind them, silent, patient, watching you play a role, waiting for the moment you finally say, "This isn't me." You might feel it as restlessness, a quiet ache beneath your achievements, a sense of unreality in your interactions. You laugh but feel hollow. You succeed but feel unseen. These are the signs you're stuck in the mask. You say yes when your soul screams no. You feel anxious when alone, as if you vanish without validation. You constantly perform, even in private moments. You fear being truly known because even you don't know who you are beneath the image. The persona is not evil, it is a tool. But when the tool becomes the master, authenticity dies. Jung taught that the path to the self requires the dismantling of the persona, gently, courageously, piece by piece. It doesn't mean throwing away your roles. You can still be the leader, the lover, the parent, the artist. But now you know you are not those things. You are the awareness behind them. To break free of the mask, begin by asking, who am I when no one's watching? What parts of me do I hide to be accepted? Where in my life am I playing a role that no longer fits? The goal is not to abandon the persona, but to stop identifying with it. Because once you no longer confuse the mask with your face, something miraculous happens. You stop performing life and start living it. And in that moment, raw, uncertain but real, the journey inward begins. The ego, your center of consciousness. Before we can grow, we must understand the ground we stand on. In Jungian psychology, that ground is the ego, not the villain but the vessel, not arrogance, not pride, not vanity. The ego is your sense of I am. Your function stack is your inner architecture. It tells you how you think, feel, sense, and dream. But the goal is not to be one kind of person. The goal is to become a whole person. And wholeness begins with awareness. Projection, how we see ourselves in others. What if the person you love, or the one you hate, is really holding a mirror? What if your judgment of them is just a reflection of something hidden in you? Carl Jung called this phenomenon projection. The unconscious act of placing your inner world onto someone else's outer image. We think we're seeing them, but often we're seeing us. A part of us we can't or won't face directly. We fall in love, not just with a person, but with a lost part of ourselves we see shining in their eyes. We idolize their confidence, their wildness, their depth, not realizing that we've buried those very things within. Likewise, we make enemies, not because of who the other truly is, but because they awaken the darkness we've denied. We despise the arrogant because they echo the pride we repress. We avoid the emotional because they awaken a tenderness we were told to silence. We mock the dreamer because their visions stir our abandoned imagination. Projection is not just psychological, it's spiritual. It is the soul's cry for wholeness, disguised as a reaction. Romantic relationships are ripe with projection. We seek the divine in our lovers, our ideal masculine, our sacred feminine. But soon the mask slips. What once was magic becomes mundane. And the disillusionment cuts deep. Why? Because no one can carry your soul for you, and no one is meant to fulfill your unconscious. They are meant to awaken it. In projection, we do not see people. We see parts of ourselves that we've lost, feared, or disowned. The work, then, is to reclaim your projections. When you feel intense emotion towards someone, ask not, what's wrong with them, but what part of me is reacting? Ask, what am I really seeing in this person? What trait do I envy or hate? When did I first reject this quality in myself? What would happen if I owned it consciously? Reclaiming your projections does not mean endorsing bad behavior. It means removing the veil so you can see others clearly, without distortion. It means becoming responsible for your inner life so you are not ruled by unconscious forces. Jung wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." This is not comfortable work. It is humbling. But it is the path to true compassion, true clarity, and true self-knowledge. To see others as they are, you must first face who you are. When you dissolve projection, you don't lose magic. You reclaim it from illusion. And suddenly, the world becomes real. Not because it changed, but because you did. The anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine. In the quiet depths of every human soul, there lives a mysterious presence, an echo of the opposite. A man, no matter how strong or rational he appears, carries within him the essence of the feminine, the anima. And a woman, no matter how nurturing or intuitive, harbors the animus, the inner masculine, firm and directive. These are not just symbolic figures. They are ancient archetypes, timeless shadows that live beneath the surface of our everyday mind. They guide our dreams, stir our passions, and shape the ways we love, fight, create, and self-destruct. The anima is the soul of a man, his inner emotional compass, his intuitive whisper, his connection to nature, beauty, mystery. She appears in dreams as the muse, the lover, the enchantress, or the mother. She may lift him into profound inspiration or drag him into despair and illusion if she remains unintegrated. When a man denies her, he may become emotionally hollow, chronically logical, detached from the richness of life. But when he embraces her, she opens the gates to poetry, empathy, and creativity. She softens the edges of his armor, teaching him how to feel, not just think. How to surrender, not just conquer. The animus, in contrast, lives in the soul of a woman. He is her voice of reason, her clarity, her fire. He speaks with conviction, sometimes as a wise guide, other times as a harsh critic or rigid ideal. When unrecognized, the animus can manifest as a woman's harsh judgments, resistance to vulnerability, or relentless perfectionism. She may project him onto men, falling in love not with who they are, but with what they represent. Strength, status, certainty. But when she befriends him, he becomes her protector, not her tormentor. He stands within her, not against her. He inspires her to speak truth, to pursue purpose, to dream fiercely and act bravely. In relationship, the anima and animus often collide as projections. A man may see his soul in the eyes of a woman, and a woman may seek her own authority in the form of a man, hoping he'll complete what she cannot yet claim within. This is why love can feel like magic, and then suddenly, like war. We are not just meeting each other, we are meeting the unhealed, unseen halves of ourselves. And so the journey is not merely toward the other, but inward, toward integration, to withdraw the projections, to reclaim the lost voices, to dance with the inner feminine if you are a man, to listen to the inner masculine if you are a woman. True psychic balance is not found in domination or denial. It is found in dialogue, in learning to hold both sword and song within. When the anima and animus are integrated, they no longer war. They become allies. They create a sacred union within, the divine marriage of opposites. From this inner harmony flows not just healthy relationships, but soulful art, awakened love, and a life lived in fullness. To know yourself is to know the other within. To love another truly is to stop asking them to carry what is yours to embody. This is the path of individuation, the sacred task of becoming whole, the collective unconscious, the inherited mind. There is a deep river that runs beneath all of us, a silent, invisible current that carries the memory of the world. We do not see it, but it sees us. It speaks in dreams, symbols, synchronicities, a forgotten language older than speech. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious, a vast psychic inheritance shared by all of humanity. Not personal, like your childhood memories, not cultural, like your traditions, but older, much older. It is the blueprint of the human soul. Beneath the conscious mind, beyond the personal unconscious, lies this shared ground, a living archive of symbols, instincts, and archetypes. You were born with it, as was I. So was every child, every king, every outcast, every artist, every warrior. We carry it like the ocean carries the salt, silently everywhere. In this deep collective layer dwell the archetypes, primordial images, eternal patterns, inherited possibilities. They are not things we invent, they are things we remember. The mother, the hero, the shadow, the wise old man, the trickster, the divine child. They are not characters in a story. They are the story that keeps being told. They animate our myths, echo through our religions, and reappear in every fairy tale whispered to a child before bed. They shape the way we love, fear, fight, dream. We may change the costumes, the settings, the time, but the archetypes remain the same. They are the grammar of the soul, the architecture of meaning. When you dream of a serpent, you are not dreaming alone. You are entering an image that has been dreamt for millennia. When you feel drawn to a stranger who feels strangely familiar, you may be meeting an archetype, a figure from the collective story that now moves through your private life. And when history repeats itself, when leaders rise and fall like echoes, when crowds worship and betray, when love turns to war and back again, this too is the collective unconscious at work, playing out the myth of humanity again and again. Jung believed that these ancient patterns are not dead. They are alive, but only if we meet them, only if we listen, only if we turn inward with humility and ask, what deeper force is moving me? What archetype am I living right now? Am I the hero, the victim, the seeker, the rebel, the sage? To become conscious of the collective unconscious is to begin waking up, to stop living as a puppet of ancient scripts and begin rewriting your part in the myth. It is to know that you are not alone in your suffering, not original in your longing, not isolated in your awakening. You are part of a great human memory, and that memory lives through you. Individuation, the path to wholeness. There comes a moment in every human life, quiet, trembling, unmistakable, when the old masks begin to crack. The roles we played so convincingly lose their charm. Success feels hollow, approval feels borrowed. The life we built begins to feel like someone else's dream. And in that moment, something deeper stirs. A soft but relentless voice from within. This is not who you truly are. Jung called this the beginning of individuation, the sacred path to wholeness, not perfection, but authenticity. To individuate is not to isolate. It is not the ego inflating into superiority. It is the opposite, a humbling, unraveling return to what has always been waiting inside you. It is the courageous dismantling of illusions. The illusion that you are only your name, your job, your story, your pain. It is the quiet revolt against the small self, the persona that performs for the world, while the soul watches silently from the shadows. Individuation begins with descent, into the shadow, where denied truths and forgotten selves live, into the anima or animus, where your soul's other half waits, into the complexes, the old wounds that grip you with invisible hands. You must feel what you've fled, you must face what you've projected. You must take back every part of yourself you once cast away to belong, to be loved. Jung's psychology offers a code. You are not a just sacred light. Lens through which we may finally begin to see. You are the sacred not just marriage to analyze, but to understand. Along the path, not to judge, the ego resists, but to love without illusions to what is familiar. Begin with the mask, even if it hurts. The persona, slowly, steadily, everyone wears the self one. Begins to emerge. Some wear the mask of the helper, not a bigger ego, some but a deeper center. Some the victim, not some a mask, the saint, but a mirror. It is not a lie, the self but it is not the whole truth either. Not just it is a compromise, but the face you show the world to belong. It is not to be admired, climbing to survive, but by going deeper. If you wish to see clearly, it is not discovered in the world's noise, charm or the defensiveness beneath your skin. Ask instead, individuation is not a destination protecting. It is a lifelong what is not being shown, a spiral journey inward. Look for the shadow again. Each what time do they criticize away most another layer of falsehood? What triggers them? Each time remembering them, more of who you are. With rage or judgment. It is the death of the image. You will find the rejected parts of themselves. It is choosing inner truth over outer secretly applause. Long for freedom. It is walking the loud alone extrovert necessary may fear his so own that you may finally walk the spiritual in integrity. Seeker may be fleeing. To individuate is to be reborn. What not we cannot into something new, ourselves, but into what project always true. To it is not becoming better than others. Watch what they reject. It is becoming there lies within the shadow, yourself, waiting to be loved. And in that wholeness, then listen you no longer seek completion the from functions the of consciousness. You no longer are they led by thought or by feeling. You become a bridge between opposites, truth or harmony, between reason and feeling. Are they practical, spirit or visionary, body, human and divine? Are they grounded in sensation? This is the or dancing in imagination. not
Jung's
in the future,
functions,
but in the
thinking,
depths of your
feeling,
own being.
sensation, intuition,
How to understand
are like windows
anyone
through which
using
the soul
Jung's
looks out.
code.
We all
The
have
beginning
them,
of wisdom,
but some windows are
seeing
cleaner than
clearly,
others,
without
some are
illusion.
hidden behind curtains.
There is a kind of sight
Some were
that
shut
goes beyond
long
the
ago.
eyes.
Watch
seeing
closely.
that perceives
You'll begin
not
to
the
notice
surface, but the
this one
soul.
speaks in logic.
To understand
That one
another
listens
human
with the
being
heart.
is not to label
This
them,
one trusts
but to listen
instinct.
beyond the noise.
That one
to
clings
witness
to
the
proof.
archetype behind the
No
action,
one is wrong.
the
They are
pain
just
behind the
speaking
posture,
from different
the
rooms
self behind
inside
the
the
mask.
psyche. And finally, notice the projections, the dream images we cast onto others. We fall in love with our animus or anima, not knowing they live inside us. We fear the tyrant boss, not realizing he mirrors our disowned power. We envy the confident friend, unaware she reflects our buried potential. Understanding comes when we pull the projection back, when we stop blaming, stop idolizing, stop fearing the mirror. To understand others using Jung's code is not to decode them like puzzles, but to meet them as fellow souls on the same sacred journey, wearing masks, carrying shadows, projecting longing, yearning for wholeness. This is the beginning of wisdom. To see clearly, without illusion, without judgment. To love what is real, and in doing so, to finally understand yourself. Beyond understanding, transforming relationships, society, and the soul. There is a threshold where understanding ends and transformation begins. It is not enough to name the shadow, to map the anima, to decode the archetypes. The true work begins when we allow what we've seen to change us, not just inwardly, but in how we love, how we lead, how we live. Jung taught us how to see, but now we must learn how to be. Relationships as sacred mirrors. In the sanctuary of relationship, we meet not just the other, but ourselves. Our lover becomes a mirror of our longing. Our child reflects our innocence, our fear. Our enemy, our buried rage. When we move beyond projection, we begin to love without possession. We stop demanding others complete us, and instead, we honor their separate wholeness. To love from the self is to bless, not bind. To hold without holding back. To speak truth without violence. To see conflict as alchemy, the friction where old selves dissolve and new ones are born. A society in shadow. Modern life is built on disconnection. From nature, from soul, from each other. Collectively we wear masks, the illusion of progress, the performance of power, the worship of productivity. But the shadow of a culture is just as real as the shadow of an individual. It lives in systems of control, in prejudice disguised as order, in the exile of the sacred. Transformation begins when we dare to feel what society denies, when we speak what is silenced, grieve what is forgotten, and imagine what has never been allowed. The healing of the world will not come from more information, but from deeper integration, the soul's return. And beneath all this, beneath the persona, the trauma, the noise, there is something eternal waiting. The self, not the ego's polished mask, but the quiet luminous center. When we begin to live from this inner axis, everything changes. We no longer need to dominate to feel strong, nor disappear to feel safe. We become inwardly aligned. Our thoughts, emotions, body and spirit moving in harmony like a symphony remembered. From this place, we do not react. We respond. We do not seek to escape pain. We allow it to soften us. We begin to embody wisdom, not just intellectually, but energetically. We become vessels of presence in a fragmented world. A new way of being. To truly understand is to transform.